How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing Scream 4 here. One of my favorite Scream movies of the franchise. It probably sits at that second spot as a lock, which I know may be a hot take for quite a few because this movie's kind of back and forth with audiences. Like, some like it, some don't. So for me, I'm one of them who actually enjoys it. So we start off the movie there by watching a series of different Scream scenarios happen on out there in the stab movies. Seeing, a friend take out another friend, and then so on and so forth. Like, it was a nice little series there at the start of the movie, which I actually found kind of entertaining and a little bit different. Like, every single film has something different so far that I've really enjoyed, and I do like the fact that they try to incorporate new things like that. From there, we end up seeing, two friends there in high school that are like video geeks basically. They enjoy the horror movies, the horror genre, and they like to record things. It kind of makes sense too because it is 2011, so like YouTube and stuff just came around during that time. So them recording it kind of just kept up with like the modern era at the time, which I thought was a really nice take on what they were going after. Like, it just made sense, and I really like that aspect of it. We end up seeing Sydney's cousin and Jill Roberts here within the movie, played by Emma Roberts, who I really like as an actress. She played a phenomenal role here in this movie. If you guys are unaware, she is one of the killers with Rory, or not Rory, Charlie. Sorry, Rory's the actor's name. With Charlie here in the movie. Um, I just really like what she did throughout this movie, as well as Charlie. Charlie played it off really well. First time watching it, I never suspected him. I thought it was going to be his like buddy within that group there, but it ends up being him as one of the killers there, which I was actually kind of shocked by. But I quite enjoyed throughout this movie here. We see quite a book that she wrote, which I thought was a pretty smart thing for them to do within this movie, is have her kind of be like the center of the story there with something, and it turned out to be a book. In this time, we see that Dewey's coming up because they obviously saw a murder earlier on in the movie, so he's investigating here to find out that there's a phone in the back of Sydney's car that relates to the murder, so they have to lock it on down, and she becomes a suspect at that point, which was kind of funny to see right away how she became one of the suspects along with Gail, who at the time is married to Dewey, and Dewey's not giving her all the information, and it's just kind of funny to see. We see a new reporter in the movie who's kind of nosy like Gail was in those first few. I thought it was kind of ironic how they made her kind of exactly like Gail, outside of the fact that she ends up dying later on in a parking garage, getting shoved out of it by one of the Ghostface killers. So we see that, and then we see Sydney's cousin witness, Charlie basically murder one of her best friends, which kind of sets a tone, which kind of misdirected you from Jill being one of the killers, but at the same rate, like, you kind of have to suspect it a little bit. And I think her motive is actually really good. Growing up in the family surrounded by Sydney and like her, 10 minutes of fame, basically, she says, always being overshadowed by her cousin. She hated the fact that she was basically involved in that family, and I actually quite like her motive a lot here in this movie. It made sense, and I feel like it just fit perfect. Moving on from that, we see Gail investigating a party. She tries to set up some cameras. It's the whole stab party with Charlie, and I believe his name is Robbie. Those two host a party every year with all the stab movies, and they just basically get drunk from the movies and vibe and all that. Well, Gail tries to set up some cameras to go fake his killer, ends up spotting that on out, which I'm pretty sure is Jill at the time because she ends up disappearing from the house. Um, so we see her going about the party. She ends up killing actually her mom within the movie as well, as her mom's trying to basically protect Sydney, which I thought was kind of interesting, but she held to what she wanted to do, and that was get her fame and be the sole survivor at the end of the movie. But we move on from the party. We end up seeing everyone at Kirby's house afterwards, which kind of made sense because a little after party from the party, we see Robbie and Charlie there. Both of them kind of like, well, Charlie playing it off, but Robbie's like stressing out because there was a murder there at their party, and you know they could end up being responsible for that. We see, I believe his name is Trevor, popping on up, who's Jill's ex-boyfriend at the time. And from there, we kind of just see a series of events go down. Jill disappears, and then Trevor disappears. So I'm assuming Jill took him out at some point. And then we see Charlie disappearing because Trevor cuts off like their kiss at a little bit prior to that. And then eventually we see basically Kirby getting locked down in the basement with Sydney, with Trevor, or not Trevor, Charlie playing, you know, nice little victim there outside with Jill chasing him. And then here to find out when Kirby goes out there after answering a series of questions correct, Charlie has a knife in his hand and ends up killing her. So, or killing her, as we later see in different movies. But it was a nice little take there. We see Jill and Sydney upstairs at one point as well, trying to avoid the killer. And then eventually, when Sydney gets back inside, it's revealed that Charlie is one of the killers, and then Jill unmasks herself, and then like Sydney's face was just priceless at that point. Again, the motive I thought was pretty good. I quite enjoyed it. It made sense when she was explaining it as well, and then she played it on off. They went the Billy and Stu Macher route of, oh, we're gonna make it look like we're the victim and this and that, but Jill ends up turning on Charlie and basically just saying there's only gonna be one survivor here, which I was shocked by. I was not expecting that at all. And she ends up killing him, and then she's gonna try to pawn it off on Trevor. And then she goes on a whole rampage of making it look like she was attacked, you know, throwing herself through a table, into the wall, breaking stuff on the walls, like a whole series of things. She pulled out her own hair with Sydney's hand as Sydney's knocked out. And then once she's done with that, she basically lays down next to Sydney, and she gets her few minutes of fame there. She's getting pulled out of the house, ends up in the hospital. Dewey ends up coming up to her and basically telling her that Sydney's got a chance to live. Well, as Dewey's talking to her, you know, she talks about how Gail's got like the same scar as her, which didn't click with Dewey right away until he ended up talking to Gail, and then he's like, "Oh crap, I screwed up," and he ended up going back to find Jill, knocking him out basically in Sydney's room, and then we see a whole series of events go down in there, and eventually Sydney takes Jill on out, which makes sense. I like the aspect that they kind of did the ending of the movie different. They ended up going the route of, oh, we're gonna make it look like it's done after these series of kills, like they do in every other movie, and then they changed it around and ended up, um, you know, having another scene there, which I thought was cool. It was a nice little twist from what they've done in prior movies. So that's going to be my review here for this movie. I ranked this at the second, as you guys can see there at the bottom of the screen. I have all the movies ranked of which order I like them from left to right. This is going to be my second favorite movie so far of the franchise. I don't know if any of the movies can really top the original. I really like the original movie. So if you guys want to recommend any movies, make sure to leave that in the comments. If you want to help me out, grab something from my Amazon wish list. You know, I'll watch movies. Should give you guys a shout out on TikTok and on here in a short. I just love horror movies. I'm going to be going through a lot of movies. I have a decent amount already, and then I have like a budget set aside for movies that I can get here in future weeks. So that'll be nice. Once this series is done, I plan on hopping into probably Friday the 13th or Halloween. Then we'll go into the Chucky movies, etc. I got a lot of movies, guys. Probably enough here for at least 100 different videos before I have to start buying them. So, but if you guys want to help on out, the wish list is there of movies that I do not have, and yeah. But appreciate you guys for stopping on by, and we'll see you next time.